So I'm not sure how this happened, but Seismic Poison managed to get some gigantic buffs, some overtly covered in the patch notes, and some in secret. Let's get into it. First things first, Seismic Trap is a build that runs hexes as opposed to marks. Now, a lot of the hexes got buffed as a blanket overall thing as far as their application to bosses, and the penalty to bosses is gone. So Temporal Chains in particular no longer has a baseline penalty from curses, although it still has these penalties. This cursed magic enemies have less, and cursed rare and unique enemies have less action speed. That's even more penalized. But this other effects expire 40% slower. Actually applies to poison. Now, of course, with the buffs to curse effect more broadly, Despair also took nerfs on the other side of it, where it no longer gets flat added, and it no longer has a huge benefit from quality, that 10% increased damage taken, although that wasn't actually 10% more damage because you already use Wither on poison builds. And it also is just less effective in terms of chaos resistance, but I think this roughly balances out with the changes to curse effect. Now, there's one big buff that's hidden, that's sort of the secret, and it comes in the form of a bug fix. You see, for most boss team encounters, Seismic Poison builds took the very specific mastery on your tree. And this mastery says poisons you inflict deal damage 20% faster, which you think is generally a good thing in boss encounters, especially because there's downtime phases where the boss disappears, so you really want to make sure your damage comes out. The problem though is that this modifier was actually bugged, whether this is on something like Swift Affliction or on the mastery. You can see that this line here says that fixed a bug where modifiers that make ailments deal damage faster incorrectly lower the duration of poisons twice, resulting in lower total damage dealt over the lifetime of the poison debuff. In other words, if I'm reading this bug fix correctly, if you took that poison faster mastery, you basically just dealt 20% less total poison damage on your poison seismic build. So basically, you have a temporal chains buff, you have a despair net roughly neutral, and you have a 20% poison damage buff to the build that was already the strongest build in the league. And we've seen countless evidence of this, whether it was this video I posted of just absolutely smashing all the Ubers on less than 1 Divine, or the fact that in the last time we had a major competitive event, the Sentinel Gauntlet, almost every single clear on every single class was done by Seismic Trap, other than Templar. Now, some people are a little bit concerned about the removal of Coated Shrapnel. However, if you actually look at the most recent POBs from Lake of Calandra during the league start, you'll see that both Ventura, who's really well versed in this build, and I'm Exile, Nick, neither of them actually ran Coated Shrapnel. In fact, to cap poison chance, these days the MO is just to go for a Divergent Herald of Agony from Heist. And this is all like fairly early gear. We're talking day 4, day 5, they're pretty much ready to go. So in reality, the Coated Shrapnel nerf really didn't affect much of the competitive side of PoE, and shouldn't really affect your early progression as a player either. Now in this video, I'm not going to call for nerfs to Seismic. All I'm saying is, if you want to know what the strongest league starter will be for 3.20, just know that Poison Seismic, the thing that was already about twice as strong as all the other league starters in prior patches, has now received at least probably about a 30% buff moving into the new league.